Testing 1, 2, 3.
You got me? All right.
Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Welcome into another edition of the weekly football preview show here on West Georgia TV and West Georgia WGTV Sports. I'm your host, Tom Araquazo, alongside Coach Cale Singleton and Coach Tim Araquazo back there doing all the magic, and he's behind the camera. He'll talk with us a little bit, but Cale, man, we're already in week 3 of the football season. You know, we wait and we wait, anticipate, can't wait. Hot summer days, August comes. Football now we're 3 weeks into it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how fast it flies by, and any coach will tell their team starting at the beginning of the year, you seniors don't blink, it'll be over. And you know, seniors don't realize how quick it flies by. So it's kind of crazy. We're already in week 3.
Yeah, and last week a lot of really good, exciting football games, some rivalries played, and we're going to dive into those here in just a few minutes. And then we're going to dive into some scores from last week. Tim's going to be able to pull them up. I think you got a few over there that we can pull up and talk about. But first, let's talk a little bit about one of the big games in the area last week. Let's just kick it off with Central and Bowden.
Oh yeah,
a dogfight over there. Those two, as we had said before in last week's episode, that. No love lost between these two teams. New coaching staff, everything kind of new over at Central. Two great running backs, two of the best running backs, in my opinion, in the state of Georgia. 1-2 punches over there at Central, and then you got the young quarterback. Made some mistakes in the first half, kind of cleaned it up in the second half, and helped Central win that football game. But again, it's hard to read a lot into early on in the season. The first, couple of games of the season, it's, you really want to start looking at what teams can or what they maybe are going to be about week 5, 6 maybe, getting ready for a region schedule or something.
Yeah, and looking at that game, the biggest, one of the takeaways from me watching, I was at the game, Central's depth, I mean, over the course of that second half kicked in. Bowden had guys playing both ways the entire game, and almost every special team's never coming off the field. So for those kids, obviously as the game went on, fatigue set in, and Central took advantage of it in those situations. But if you look at the score in the first half, it was 14-6, if I'm not mistaken. Bowden played well, especially defensively. They had 2 takeaways, which they didn't capitalize on, and just as well as me, in games like that, you have to capitalize on takeaways. So Bowden fought really hard in that first half. I was impressed on how they played and how they responded, but them not capitalizing on those takeaways was huge for them. And defensively, Bowden got after them. Just from watching them obviously play in Redan, and then Bowden's scheme coming into it, JR made those mistakes because they had him on the run most of the game. So
right.
I think for Central moving forward, they're going to have to get him more accustomed to doing those type things, because Bowden kind of left a pathway for some of these other teams to get some film on and say, okay, we got to get this kid moving, and contain him. Second half, Bowden didn't contain him well, let him get outside the pocket a little bit, and he's good when he gets out in space. So for Central,
and you got to think, tough first half for the freshmen, second half a little bit better.
Yeah.
And those things are going to get better for Central as well whenever you start looking down the road. And again, I keep going back to it, Kel, and I can't help it. You got 2 stud running backs in the backfield. I mean, you got a 1 and a 1A, and you got, in my opinion, 2 D1 running backs in your backfield.
Yep.
And whenever you got a couple of cats like that, you can almost rotate them every play and not miss a beat.
Yeah, I think they ended up rushing for 300 and something yards. And we talk about the running back, but those Hogs, led by Eli Somerville up front, they really got after it the second half. That, like I said, Bowden gave all they could that first half, and then that O-line from Central kind of set in the second half, and it's easy just to hand it off to 2 D1 backs and eat some clock up and control the time of possession and stuff. So
you got a totally different ball game if you're right. When Bowden gets the 2 turnovers, if they capitalize, put points on the board, 2 touchdowns, 10 points, something. When you get a turnover in a big ball game like that against really good football teams, you have to capitalize. You have to get some kind of something on the scoreboard out of it. Because if you don't, then those are just missed opportunities. That gives your offense an extra possession. That was 2 extra possessions right there.
Yep.
So, yeah, you got to take advantage of them.
Yeah, and, Bowden offensively, for them, they gave Caden, some of his shots. But Central, honestly, they just started kind of playing off and bailing, So maybe Bowden moving forward, you got a 6'5", 6'6" kid out there that's already got Division I offers. Maybe you mix in something else like a deep comeback or a deep out or something to kind of
loosen it up a little bit.
Yeah, so, and then that'll help you in your run game too. So I'll be curious to see how they go, how they transition this week. It just seems like they're not in sync still, Bowden, right now. And that's the biggest thing.
You know what? Week 2 last year, they weren't in sync either.
Yeah.
They were still 1-1. They really started getting it together the next week when they played at Bremen, their rival, and they beat Bremen 35-0.
Yeah.
That's when to me, right after the Central game, it was almost like everything started kind of coming together. Now, granted, that was the first game T.J. Harbison got to play. And that's the first game against Central last year. They lost Wyndham. It's a big blow.
Oh, yeah.
Your best running back, who is just anytime he touches the ball, could be gone. Wyndham's got that kind of explosive speed and everything. When you lose a weapon like that, and then, like I said, in that third quarter was the difference in last year's game. But still, Bowden was not in sync. And they looked a lot better against Bremen last year at 35-0, and then they started rolling. Then they started playing some more really good football teams, and they continued to win and continue to win. So, to me, I think Bowden's fine. I think Bremen's coming in high 2-0. They're number 3 rival, number 2 rival, if you will. Now they're number 1 rival that they're going to have to play. 2 of them on the road. The last 2, Haralson County beat them last week, and then at Bowden. And like we said last week, Bowden really could start the season 0-3, and then still win the region and go deep into the playoffs. And I really think Bowden's going to be fine, especially once it comes region time for them, and it's going to be because they're playing these really good football teams to start the season. Unfortunately for Bowden, things aren't going their way right now.
Yeah, and another, we talked about it in the post game. Another area I'd like to see them grow in is special teams.
Yes,
that has shot them in the foot the last 2 games. Kickoff, punt, not flipping the field, and then the other team flipping the field on them. And I think defensively for Bowden, I can't tell you how many times Central got the ball in Bowden's territory. And their backs against the wall immediately because something went wrong with a punt or something crazy with a kickoff. So they're going to have to get special teams picked up too if they plan on trying to win a region championship as well.
Well, and that was one of the things I seen that was if I had it, the worst thing that I seen them do against Manchester. And I didn't see the Central game. But against Manchester, if you remember, I told you, Bowden gave up a lot of big yardage on kickoff returns. Manchester started. Their defense was in a hole already. They're on our side of the football just about, 5, 6 out of 8 possessions. And the other ones, they're up near the 50. They're 38 or the 42 starting, field position. So, yeah, Bowden will get it cleaned up. Yep. Don't worry about it, Red Devil fans. Who do we got next week? Let's see.
You could do the game of the week you had, VR.
Yeah, that was a really good football team that Villa Rica played. You had mentioned a couple of the teams that last week that they had beaten. That let us know that they were a pretty good football team. Well, we got a chance to see them, and they are. Hebron, and Kel was right, by the way. It's Hebron, not Hebron. Hebron Christian, they're a good football team and had a tremendous – I still haven't sent you the pictures of the offensive line. They were huge.
Yeah, I saw your broadcast. They were large.
Oh, my goodness, they were huge. But so, Villa Rica got in there and went toe-to-toe with them, a really good football team, scored 70 points the week before. Villa Rica was off. Coach Barron, Austin Barron's first game. It was a watch out for Villa Rica because – as you and I have talked many times over the last couple of weeks, Kel, offense wins games, defense wins championships. Villa Rica has a very good defense because the offense that Hebron had, they were very good.
Oh, yeah.
They were a really good offensive team. Like I said, with those big hogs, good backs, good quarterback, good backup quarterback. He's the one that took the shot from Aker. Caleb Aker that hit, was our headhunter of the week hit, you know what I mean? But, yeah, Villa Rica, I'm telling you, look out for them. I think that they'll find a way to put the ball in the end zone more. Villa Rica went on some drives. Problem was they kind of stalled out on them when they got down near the red zone, if you will. So, new quarterback over there. Got some other kids playing in some skill positions that they were different from last year, if you will, and I'm telling you, Villa Rica gets their offense together and continues to prove with their defense. I'm going to go ahead and say it. They're going to have a really good chance to win this region. Now, Creekside, I think, is it Creekside that's in that region with them? Yeah. Now, that's going to be a football game.
And Mays. But
Mays and Creekside, but I'm telling you, I think that Villa Rica's defense, they play disciplined defense as well. So, Creekside, to me, is going to be the biggest test for them in that region.
Yeah, and just looking at their non-region, Northgate's undefeated right now.
They are.
Whitewater and Stars Mill.
And it's no easy task in this region. Yeah. But I'm telling you, Villa Rica, you got Mays, you got Creekside, you got Lithia Springs, Villa Rica, and
Chapel
Hill,
Maynard Jackson.
Maynard's always got some good athletes. Seems like they're kind of undisciplined a lot at times. But I don't know. Villa Rica, I was very impressed with the defense. I was very impressed with the defensive front handling that great big offensive line. and they wasn't just big guys. They were big, fit, strong, good offensive linemen, really good offensive linemen. And I think
defense seems to be the story for everybody.
Defense is the deal.
Week 1 and 2 right now.
Speaking of defense, we can talk about Carrollton. You know, a shutout. You guys, I think both of y'all thought that they were going to blow them out. I thought that they would too. I really thought South Paulding played a little football with them for a quarter or two there, at least in that first half. But no, they hammered them. They hammered them. Carrollton come out and took all of their, what do you call it, fury and anger, frustrations out on South Paulding. But they were very kind to them, if you will, in the second half. I think it was 42-0 at the half, and then the final score was 49-0. Because I think some people gave Carrollton a hard time in a scrimmage. I think they scored 80 against Alexander or something.
Basketball score.
Is that what? Yeah.
Yeah, I was 1 for 2 in my picks last week for Carrollton football teams. I had to give a apology to the folks over at Central because I did pick Bowden to win. I actually thought Bowden might win, by 10 points or so, yeah. But Central come in and did what they had to do. But I knew it was going to be a running clock whenever Carrollton stepped on the field again because they were going to take out some, like you said, some of that frustration, and they did. I was really surprised, though, at the second half. I mean, I know they probably put their backups in and they're trying to develop those kids, but I expected it to probably be 60, 70 to nothing by the end of the football game. But
and some of those games are okay. Some of the games where you play and you're much superior than other teams. People always and I'm a big guy for that. I believe in playing the best competition you can, especially before you get to region to get you better for region and then possibly the playoffs. But you can get some other people in and get some other work because anything can happen, as Carrollton seen from the first play of offensive scrimmage last week. They're, my opinion, again, pound for pound, the best player in our area, Bryce Hicks, goes down. So you got to be ready. The next man up has got to be ready. And 7A football and the schedule and the teams that Carrollton plays, it's big boy football. Next boy up, next man up. You got to be ready to play. So sometimes those games kind of help. But I really thought the South Paulding would give them more. I really did. I thought that it would be more of a contest than what I seen.
Yeah.
How about Temple? Let's look at the Temple Tigers right quick, guys. They're 2-0. They're off to a hot start. They go up to Heritage and beat Heritage. To me, that was one of the first tests for them early on in the season. They got a few more tests, I think, coming up. Maybe Pepperell. I don't know. Pepperell's 0-2 right now, but you can't ever tell with Pepperell. They're kind of like that Heard County bunch. They might start the season 0-2 and 0-3, and then come playoff time, Pepperell's clicking on all cylinders with some running back that had been hurt early on in the year, and he's some kind of stud or something.
Yeah. For Temple, C.J. Gray, we keep talking about special teams. He's had back-to-back weeks where I think he took a kickoff to the house and he took a punt to the house. So he's one of those kids that's an impact for Temple. Jace, Glenn, Manny, same ones I always talk about. They're doing what they're supposed to do. McAnallen, still hadn't seen Freddie's name in the mix, so I don't think he's completely clear, but he's close. That's Manny's brother. He's a senior this year, but they got Chattooga this week, and they should take care of business with Chattooga. It's a home game for them, so they'll be fine there. They should be 3-0 after this week, I would assume.
And then they'll get Lumpkin County at home.
Yep.
And that's going to be a pretty good football game as well. Then you got Pepperell, and then Bowden, Midtown, Lamar County before they get into the region play. But, Coach Nix and them, riding high right now, 2-0. I think that they've played two teams that's kind of inferior. I mean, that they're better football teams, and that's why they beat them the way they did. Now, like I said, that's the first little hurdle to me. Pike County, not so much, but Heritage going up there, beating a good program. It's a good program, although that they may be down a little bit. And I think it's they went up there and made a statement and beat them like they should have.
Yep.
Them being the better football team. Temple could surprise some folks this year. They really could, especially in that schedule. I mean, region schedule. When you start looking at who all that, I mean, you got Crawford County, you got Lamar, and then you got Heard County with Temple. So they're already in the playoffs. Now it's just on positioning. So I don't know. We got a couple of weeks here to see if Temple, the Tigers, are for real.
Yeah, only time will tell.
Let's see. Moving on. Who do we got next? Let's talk about. Well, we'll keep a couple of these. Let's talk. How about a Callaway? I want to talk a little bit about that. Callaway Cedartown. That's an interesting game to me. It was at Callaway. I felt like that Cedartown. And I thought it was going to be a really good football game. Callaway seems to be a really good football team.
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised. The score, I can't remember exactly what the final score was, but
Tim will get that pulled up.
yeah, I was surprised Callaway run away with it in the end like they did. But that just goes to Coach Wiggins and them. They year after year they find ways to be successful, and I think for them, this being their first game, there it is. Yeah, 27-10. That's a huge win for them, first game of the season. So hats off to them, because that beating Cedartown in that way, Central, you better get that film, because that could very well help you a lot down the road in preparing for Cedartown, and maybe exposing some things that Cedartown did wrong and things like that you could throw in your game plan, because Callaway, from what I remember, style-wise is going to be very similar to Central as far as, kind of pro style, mixing in 10 personnel, 20 personnel, those type things. So I'm kind of curious to see how they, had success against Cedartown. So I'm very shocked by that score.
Coach Wiggins is going to have a team that's ready to play football. Since he's been there, how many teams have we seen that him have over these years that
champs.
We know that they are good? Yeah, Final Four teams, state championship teams, a couple of Elite Eights, 3 or 4 or 5, I think, 3 Final Fours in a row, and then they won one of them. They won, and I don't know. I mean, he's going to put a good football team out on the field. I just didn't think that they'd beat 17 points, 27-10 over Cedartown. Pretty good win. Maybe Cedartown's not exactly what they were last year, I'm sure. But hats off to them. Smaller school, and they beat them pretty good. That's a good win by 17.
Now, McKell, I definitely didn't think they were going to win this football game the way they did. I figured it'd be close because they always got athletes, like you said. They got a great coach. But, I haven't seen Cedartown, but I've seen Rockmart. I've seen Rockmart up close and personal. Rockmart's really, really good. Cedartown beat them last week. So I know how good of a football team they have to be to even play with that team or actually hold that offense of Rockmart to 12 points. I think it was 13-12 or something. And for Callaway to come in there and jump on them and do what they did, 17 points. I mean, that's a pretty good win. You know what I mean?
Well, you got to look at it again. We're talking about Rockmart, and Biff and them. They're used to scoring a lot of points, and they had a 12-13 ball game with Cedartown, like you said. And they had an extra point, high snap, blah, blah, blah. Didn't get it. They lost by a point. They were going to tie it up and continue the game. But then Cedartown, they only scored 10. It was 27-10 against Callaway. But this high-powered maybe offense that Rockmart might have, they only gave up 12 to them, but they gave up 27 to Callaway.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you. I don't know, maybe their offense sputtering. They've scored 12 and they've scored, or 13 and they've scored 10. They've scored 23, but they gave up 27. And again, I just didn't think Callaway would beat them by that much. Callaway may have
We'll find out this week.
They may be loaded again.
I seen some highlights. From Callaway. They look pretty dang good to me.
Hey guys, let's take a quick break. Then we'll come. We'll run around the block, pay a few bills, and then we'll come back with more of the weekly football preview show right here on West Georgia TV.
What we do here is not easy, but it's meaningful. And so when your job is meaningful and you know that you're making a difference, it lights a fire inside of you that makes it easy to get up and come to work every day.
I think the SPA's mission is just to make somebody feel better. create a better version of what they already have, or bring out their self-confidence just a little bit.
At 316 Family Medicine, we see patients of all ages.
We have amazing girls who have amazing hearts, and I think we truly care about our patients and their outcomes.
What we want to help people do is be the best version of themselves. It really doesn't feel like work. It feels like taking care of the people you love.
Since 2005, Caliber One Construction has provided the highest level of quality, integrity, and satisfaction in every aspect of their company, while empowering their employees to address the ongoing needs of their clients in an ever-changing environment through a passionate work ethic and innovative spirit. Founders Jeannie and Chris Elliott have made a commitment to customer service and customer satisfaction. That's why Caliber One Construction goes by the motto HYPE, how you prepare every day. Caliber One Construction, proud partners of WGTV and WGTV Sports.
Since 1985, Osier Apparel has been a leading provider of custom apparel, specializing in corporate wear, custom t-shirts, and spirit wear. As a family-run business with over 3 decades of experience, they have established a reputation for delivering quality products and exceptional customer service to their clients. Choose Osier Apparel for all your custom needs.
Inception Energy Solutions specializes in utility construction and maintenance, including distribution, substations, underground and overhead, and control wiring. They have a federal-approved and accredited apprenticeship program working in 9 states across the Southeast. If you're looking for an exciting career like former Blue Devil Brody Doss or Trevor Roberts, give Jerry Pounds or Hillary a call at 404-783-8646. Also, check them out online at InceptionSolutions.com. So join the over 70 employees that have made IES their home. That's Inception Energy Solutions.
Are you looking for a car, a truck, or maybe one of those popular Jeeps? Look no further. James O'Neill Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has been serving the West Georgia area for over 25 years, providing one of the largest inventories of quality trucks, cars, and SUVs in the region means you're guaranteed to find the model and trim which best suits your lifestyle. Once you settle on the perfect vehicle, meet with their team of finance experts. They can help secure you the terms and rate which best fits your lifestyle. Remember, there's no deal like an O'Neill deal. That's James O'Neill, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bremen.
Welcome back in. It's the weekly football preview show right here on West Georgia TV, and I am your host, Tom Araquazo, alongside Kel Singleton. My brother Tim, he is behind the camera doing all the magic for you. We've talked about some of the games from last week, guys. One of the craziest games, if you will, of the week probably was the Mount Zion game. They were on the road down at Greenville, and from what I understand, Kel, they had several mandatory water breaks, and the game just drug on and drug on and drug on. But I remember if sometime in the second quarter of the game that we were calling the Villa-Rica Hebron game, Josh Stitcher called out the score and said Greenville's leading Mount Zion 6-5.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you sure that's not the softball score?" And he was like, "No, it's football. 6-5." They were still maybe in the first quarter. Maybe we were at the end of the second.
Yeah, it was
kickoff time.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. I was at the Central Bowden game, and halftime was over, and I don't even think they were out of the – or they may have just ended the first quarter or something. They may have been on one of those breaks. I have no idea. But, you know, for them, what we talked about was it makes it really hard to get in a rhythm of a game if you're taking all these breaks over and over. How do you find your rhythm? How do you keep the momentum? It seems like it's like you're at practice almost, you know?
Right, like a controlled scrimmage.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, luckily Mount Zion pulled away at the end, and they got their running game going towards the end and started pounding the football like they do, and Coach Joyner and those guys found a way to overcome that adversity that you never thought you would have went on the road and faced. But, you know, they ended up winning 33-18, so you got to be proud for them, especially scoring as many points as they did coming off that Bremen scrimmage, you know. So that's a big deal for them.
Well, I was at the Bremen scrimmage, but I was also at the Bremen game. Bremen started at 8 o'clock. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, we got to halftime. I started digging up my scores, and Mount Zion just had started the second quarter, and they started 30 minutes before Bremen did.
Yeah.
That'll give you an idea how long their game just drug out, and I was the same way. Whenever I seen the score, it was 6-5, and I was like, man, what happened here? How did that happen? But evidently, safety in the field goal.
Well, and I understand the GHSA and wanting to be safe because of hot, and we talked about the heat. We talked about it last week. Excuse me, where we knew that it could be a factor on Friday night and all that, but just to control the game like that is. And I don't know everything. I don't know all the ins and outs, but just from what I'm hearing, there was just so much stoppage of play, and for maybe a lot longer than it should have.
How do you get into a rhythm too?
That's what that was the first thing he said about it when we were doing the post game show last Friday night.
Well, not to mention too, Kel hit on it last week where you can't practice through the week, so you can't get acclimated to the heat.
Right.
Once you get your adrenaline going and you've already started a football game, you've got that sweat going, you don't think about the heat quite as much. You know what I mean? You're thinking about plays, you're thinking about making tackles, you're thinking about doing your job. All of that stuff.
Plus, it's getting cooler.
Yeah, and then
throughout the night, it's already starting to get cooler.
And they were playing on grass.
Yeah.
Just to give y'all a heads up.
Yeah, and you stop and you start. It's. I tell you what, though, I do agree with what they did with Bremen and Haralson County, moving that to 8 o'clock. There was a huge difference.
With that. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was watching the weather. Because we keep the weather, I keep in a weather app up, and it always tells you what game time, what it's going to feel like, and all that stuff, wind and all that mess. And it was 6 degrees cooler in that 30 minutes. It had cooled down that much. That whole field had cooled down. The sun had already moved over. I mean, it was a great idea.
It was 90. It was 92 at Central still at kickoff.
Wow.
7:30.
Yeah, but see, by 8:30, 8:45. That 6 degrees has done dropped to about 8, 10, 12 degrees.
Yeah, so you're mid-80s and lower, which is still hot.
Yeah, but
it's much better.
Much better than 92, 95.
The heat index is what it is. When that sun starts
on
moving.
those fields, too. Good Lord.
Yeah.
That stuff's hot.
It moves over behind the trees. The heat index is what really comes down, and just cools you off a little bit.
Coach Gordon and gang, though, you're still going on the road, the adversity. Those are little things that you take away from games like that. You know what I mean? You get back home, everybody's healthy. Some things went right. Got the offense working. Sounds like the defense played pretty good ball. Like I said, with some adversity, pretty good long drive down there on Old Yella. You know what I mean? What's that?
They're hydrated.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely hydrated on the way home.
Yeah.
They're ready to come home. Who else we got here? Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about last week. Bremen, Haralson County. Huge rivalry between those two. A very good football game. Defense showed up last week for both teams. And of course, Bremen, we've talked about their defense from last year. Had and got better throughout the year. One of the top defenses in all classifications, number-wise, points given up, I think. And then, Bremen's, they shut out Heard County. They had Haralson County shut out. Tim's going to be able to tell us more about this game because he was there. He called the game. And in case y'all don't know, Tim is my brother, and he does all this, but he also has WBHS Sports. It's all things Bremen High School, so he covers all Bremen athletics through that. Sometimes people, whenever they listen, is like, oh, he's kind of one-sided there.
Yeah.
But it's Bremen radio.
Note the big blue devil right there on the page that you're watching on.
Yeah,
there.
WBHS in blue too. Sports.
Not to mention it's in the thing, BHF.
Talk a little bit about that football game. Like I said, huge defensive struggle between the two, and let's talk a little bit about that, and then of course the difference in the game, the kicker. Mathis, say it for me. Wyatt
Mathis Klein, yeah.
Wyatt Mathis Klein.
Yeah, this game was a battle in the trenches like you would expect. It was bloodbath. Haralson County, kudos to them. They come out, their defensive front whipped Bremen's offensive front. I mean, and their offensive front knows that. They know that they got whipped. But lucky for them, they got one of the best defenses around. I mean, they're extremely fast. They're extremely good. I think they had 3 or 4 takeaways, if I'm not mistaken. and Haralson County just couldn't get anything going. Haralson County did hit a little hitch where the kid got loose down the sidelines. I think it was 60-something yards for a touchdown. Before that, Bremen had held them to about 40, 50 yards of total offense, and that was in the fourth quarter whenever that happened. But Bremen dominated the game defensively. They just still had some struggles on offense. They hadn't found their identity yet on offense. They couldn't move the ball consistently like they need to. There wasn't a ton of penalties for Bremen. There were a lot of penalties for Haralson County. You expect all that stuff, a hot game early in the season. But there weren't a lot of penalties. But one that sticks out, one player that sticks out is Alonzo Edmerson. He's a freshman, and he had 2 of those takeaways during the football game. He's a big kid. He's super athletic, and he's going to be something else. He's really, really.
Is this the kid that wrestles?
Really, really good. Yeah, he wrestled for
Heavyweight.
his first time and finished second in state. It was his first time ever on the mat.
Wow.
That's
He's a bad dude.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. As
Big,
you know,
good-looking kid too, right?
yeah, and you got to think about it. He's in middle school. It's an all classifications type thing where he's trying to wrestle.
Right.
In middle school. So he's something else. He's gonna be fun to watch. Trent McPherson, he had the long touchdown of the game. But Wyatt Mathis Klein, the punter, the kicker, he had 3 kicks. He had 3 punts. 2 of his punts inside the 3-yard line where he pinned them down inside the 3-yard line.
Long punch. I seen one on your replay. You got your highlight reel or something from that game. Yeah, that's what it was, the highlight reel that I watched. And whenever you see the punter on a highlight reel, you know that he's done something good.
Well,
I think you had him on there 2 or 3 times because he dropped a couple inside the 3.
Well, in a game like that where it's a 10-7 football game,
Those are big.
Those are huge. It's like touchdowns. You know what I mean? Whenever you're playing field position like that and you're moving the football, and that's kind of what Bremen did offensively. They just kept the first 3 possessions. They just kept getting 10 to 20 yards of field position before you know it. They're at midfield to start their drive off. And then they get into the end zone. Their offense, like I said, they did sputter. They had plenty of opportunities. That defense gave them a ton of opportunities and kept them in the football game. It did not look like the same offense that I saw against Heard County. And I think they're going to get that cleaned up. I think they took it personal. They're undersized. Their offensive front is definitely undersized, but they got manhandled with Haralson County's defensive front, and I think they're going to take that personal this week, and it's going to carry over, and I think it'll actually help them.
Well, you've seen both of them. Do you think that Haralson County's defense is a little better than Heard County's, or is it just the rivalry game
definitely.
that came out?
Definitely, their defense is better. They were flying to the football. They got a ton of good athletes.
Bremen scored 24 against Heard.
Yeah, they got a ton of good athletes over there.
But it goes back to what you've said many times, and you and I have talked about it several times, especially down on these lower classifications. When you have good special teams, you have a good kicker. I mean, that could have been a huge difference in the game. Him pinning them inside the 10-yard line 3 times, inside the 5 or 3 twice. That's huge. Special teams. Plus, he kicked the field goal that won the game.
Yeah, you know what? I got to watch the film on that game, and my takeaway, I was not there, but you've kind of said it. Bremen's defense, it's like controlled street fight. Dudes are flying around everywhere, which you have to against that scheme. I mean, there's guys getting knocked down. The way Haralson, if you don't know, Haralson's offense is tough to defend. There's dudes getting knocked down backside, getting up, flying to the ball, and then you look at the other side of the ball, and it's almost like it's in slow motion. And 22 and 6 are in fast motion. You know, and thank goodness them 2 showed up, because they made a lot of stuff happen in that game. But that was kind of the thing that I was scratching my head about, was defense was going crazy, and obviously the special teams weapons and stuff like that, but they didn't capitalize, kind of how we said about Bowden earlier. Defense had those takeaways, but then offense was kind of just, sputtering along, and it's down the road. They have to be in sync.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you get to region, especially Bremen, a Daresville game, Ringgold game, like, you can't have that sputter or it'll bite you in the butt.
You got a little bit more motivation, I think, and I think it's, like I said, I think it's going to be good for Bremen moving forward, because I think those kids learned a valuable lesson on the offensive side of the ball. They never felt threatened because that defense was shutting things down and controlling Haralson County so much that they never felt threatened. But if you let a team hang around, All of a sudden, they busted a play at the end of it. Now it's a 10-7 football game.
And you got a couple of minutes left in the game.
And you got a couple of minutes left in the game. Anything can happen now. Haralson County had a chance there at the end. They got the football back. So they had a chance at the end. And, hey, Haralson County looked good throwing the football. If I was them, they had to go out and throw some. They threw some hitches. They threw some outs. They went across the middle once or twice. I honestly think that, hey, man, you got to add that in. And they look good moving the football like that.
I'll say it from a defensive side of it, and defensive coaches that face this. Not taking nothing from Haralson, but you're so you're so worried about the run. You're like, look, if they get a pass on us, it is what it is.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So
Yeah.
when they do complete, it's like you better tackle him, and it looks like he got out and scored that touchdown. That makes it look a lot better than what it really is because you're so worried about stopping the run.
Yeah, not to mention the way Bremen plays defense. I mean, they come at you and they play man up and they don't care. They'll roll the dice. I love watching that defense. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're a fan of defense, and I'm a fan of defense. I love offense, but I'm a fan of defense.
Yes.
And to watch the different schemes that Rooster throws at him, and he just comes at you from all – and he was rotating guys in and out. And I'll tell you one of the things that I thought played into it too, because Haralson County was they were trying to game plan for it, especially in the second half. He would throw 4 or 5 of his big guys that were going to come out there and swap out, and then he would pull them back. He'd send them halfway out, and he would pull them back. And it wasn't by mistake. He was sending them out there, pulling them back. He was trying to get their offense off, especially whenever they started trying to throw the football. It was fun. It was a fun game. It was a chess match there towards the end. But if that offense don't do something and capitalize, like you said, down the road, they're going to run into teams, that can put up some points. And 10 points putting up 10 points is not going to do it.
Yeah, that levee can only hold for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the truth about
Well, you talked about letting a team hang around at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And anything can happen whenever you got just a small 2-score lead. Happened last year. Haralson County wound up winning the game at the end of the game on something that what was it? A long fluke pass or something?
Yeah, and I mean, it felt kind of eerily similar to that. Like you felt like that may be
fixing to happen again.
And a game that was not just by the numbers, but if you look at it, it was just completely dominated defensively. I'm not taking anything away from Haralson County; they played great defense too. But there was a lot of stuff. Like I said, all the takeaways that Bremen had, the fumble recoveries, and inside their territory. They got the ball several times inside, close to the red zone or inside the red zone, and couldn't capitalize on it and couldn't do anything. Even the field goal, they got a turnover, I think, at the 5-yard line. Couldn't capitalize, couldn't get in the end zone. Had a bad penalty, which I didn't agree with. They tried a little goose and go with their quarterback, and the fullback come up and shoved him there at the end.
The push.
Yeah, they got that, and which. I didn't think it was great. The kid was already moving forward, and fullback just took off and hit him. But they should have got in the end zone and should have got points, and they know it. And like I said, that offensive front, I think they're gonna take it seriously, and they're not just going to be playing their opponents in the future. They're going to be playing to complement their defense and help their boys out, help their defensive. We got to help them guys. We got to step up and help them. Because they kept them in a football game the whole time, and they can play with anybody if they can score points.
Yep.
Well, guys, let's get ready to talk about next week's games. But before we do, I do want to mention a few other teams in our area. Douglas County moves to 2-0. Douglas County is a very good football team. North Paulding's 2-0. Troup County moved to 2-0. We talked about Callaway. And how about LaGrange? They're 1-1 on the season. Their only loss was a 28-12 to Carver, Atlanta, which is a pretty good loss. You lose to them 28-12. You've hung around with a really good football team.
Yeah, they're okay.
With tons of athletes. But one of the teams that's 2-0 right now is Hiram, guys. And before we go and come back with next week's games, Hiram is our sleeper team. They're mine, and I think you agree with us that Hiram has got an opportunity this year. They're a pretty good football team. They're 2-0. They're ranked in 5A. They play in a tough 5A division with Calhoun and gang. But Hiram could be a little sleeper for us this year.
Oh, yeah, I think they got a lot of – obviously over the past couple of years, they've kind of been one people wanted to schedule. but it looks like that's kind of turned this year. Their real test, to me, will be this week when they face East Paulding.
Yes.
East Paulding's gotten a lot better, so that'll be a big one. And like you said, down the pipe, you got Calhoun, you got Cartersville, you got Cass.
Those are good football teams.
Those are some pretty good football teams. So we'll, like we said with Temple earlier, both teams 2-0. You can only, time can only tell how good you're really going to be, especially in these big ball games that are coming up. And then, even in those games, when you face adversity, everything's good when you're winning.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Oh, yeah, winning cures everything.
But what happens when you face some adversity, So
right.
I'll be curious to see what happens down the road for
Well,
them.
when you throw in Calhoun and Cartersville, I mean, that's almost enough said. You put those two in a region with anybody, everybody else is playing for 3 and 4 when you put those in there. And Hiram's got a good team, and we talked about it. They had some young cats, and they kind of bit the bullet. I think that new coaching staff came in a few years ago, bit the bullet, and started trying to work them younger kids, freshmen and sophomores, and now maybe it's paying off. These kids are juniors and seniors, and maybe their experience and the tough days that they had, for 2 years could be over.
It's hard to beat a team that believes in themselves, too.
It's hard to beat a team. It's hard to beat a team when the kids will play for each other. To me, that is the biggest thing that a coach can do. If he can ever try to convince kids that if they'll play for their brother, you're going to give your best. You will give your best more better for you. Does that sound good? More better? More than for you, your mama, your daddy, your coach. If you'll get out there and play for your buddy, then you're going to give everything that you have because you don't want to let him down.
Yep.
Yeah, it kind of goes into what we were just talking about. Especially you got a team with a good defense, you got a team with a good offense.
Right.
And if your offense is letting your defense down or vice versa, and those kids start playing for each other and they start trying to complement each other, and they're not so much playing that team, they're just doing their job and do what they have to do week in and week out, and they don't want to let their brother down. Yeah, that's when it gets really, really special. You buy into a coaching staff, and then you start playing for each other. Yeah, that's whenever you start seeing. That's what Bowden did last year. They bought into a coaching staff. They started playing for each other.
Those kids definitely played for each other, and that was why I was one of their biggest cheerleaders for the Bowden Red Devils last year. And I really wanted those kids to win a state championship, and it was because I got to call their last 6 games. And I had called one or two other games during the season, but I got in I had the opportunity to get to know Robert McNeil and T.J. Harvison and Jordan Beasley and Perkins and I got to know some of those kids, and they impressed me. They wasn't just good football players and very talented kids that might be walking around with a little bit of too much swag, if you will. They were level-headed. They were good, respectful young men, and I genuinely wanted them to win. But those guys loved each other. It's just like Harbison. He come straight in. He was a brother to them. They accepted him, loved him, and he was a great kid and a great player for them and their school and a great role model. Like a 3.9 GPA. Now he's got a full ride. And we talk about the transfers and the moving ins and outs, and I'm not a big fan. I've told y'all, I think we all agree we're not real big fans of all the moving around of a bunch of kids. But with T.J. Harvison, it really worked. That worked. It saved a kid who was going the wrong way.
Yeah, give him an opportunity to step in.
He's got a full ride. He's got a full ride at Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
playing football.
Yeah, and talking about those kids, and for Hiram, for all these teams that may be undefeated right now, any coach will tell you a player-led team is hard to beat.
Yes.
And that, for the Peanut Gallery, you don't see those things, that a coach invests time into trying to teach leadership and all that, and just maybe asking your dude, somebody you really count on, hey, you have to lead this team. They don't understand how hard it is to get kids to do that.
That's right.
So when all that combination comes together and it's starting to be a player-led team, it's really, really hard to beat those teams, because then you got a voice within your coaching staff. Your players are leading each other. They're the ones fixing stuff that should be fixed, and it makes your job a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I mean, you get that combination. I mean, you'll win a lot of ball games.
I think that's what Bowden's missing this year. They're
Yep.
missing that this year. You got somebody asked me, he's like, man, I didn't expect this score. They actually thought Central was going to win, but they didn't expect it was going to be like this, so one-sided. It's like Bowden's got all these great athletes. What happened? Well, that's what you got. You got a bunch of athletes right now, but they're not playing together.
No alpha.
Yeah, you don't have an alpha, and you gotta have an alpha. Yeah, I'd go back to the early county game last year when they got down 3 scores in the first half. I think it was the first quarter. I don't even think. I think
It was right at the first half.
Yeah.
The first. I think it was first quarter.
Yeah, it was. They were down
19
3
to nothing.
scores, but you never felt like they were out of it. I don't think those kids felt like they were out of it. They started having some of their playmakers step up and get some things going, but you never seen a bunch of helmets throwing fits on the sidelines, none of that kind of stuff. They stayed focused. They did what they had to do. They scored before half, and then before you know it, they just totally whipped them in the second half, and they go on to a state title because of it.
Well, another thing we want to look back to last year is Robert McNeil.
Yeah.
Robert McNeil was a leader. He was the quarterback of that team. And now they got a great athlete playing quarterback, but he hasn't been around for a while.
That's the alpha, just like
He's
he's talking about.
he's the senior that's coming in from the outside. So somebody like him or Beasley or somebody's got to step up and take the reins and say, hey, it's time for playtime's over.
Enough's enough.
Enough's enough. It's time. You said it last week after the Manchester game that a lot of maybe some of the some things got in check. If there was anybody feeling a little good about themselves, some of those attitudes might have got in check. If they didn't against Manchester, I guarantee you they have now. And then when they look, the Bowden kids look at Bremen, they're 2-0, and Bowden, I mean, it's coming to their house, but it's Bremen Bowden. Bremen's going to come in with this hard-hitting defense, and they're going to want to stop. They're going to want to shut Bowden out, and they want to beat them. Well, Bowden ain't showed much on offense this year.
Yeah.
So that don't play into their hands. And do they want to start the season 0-3 as the defending state champions? Probably not. So Friday night's going to be good. That's going to be some good stuff. I mean, we just keep it on.
It
Yeah.
leads us into that game.
I mean, it does. And we can just keep it right here and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be the biggest game.
What is it,
I
number
think, this week.
79 or 80 in a row?
Yeah, it's
somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in
I
there.
think it's 79 in a
A
row.
lot older than I am, I can tell you that.
I think it's 79 years in a row.
I think it's going to be an interesting football game. I'm a homer. I'm never going to bet against Bremen, but I honestly think Bremen's going to win the football game. I'm not just saying that because I think, oh man, I love all these kids and I'm a Bremen guy or whatever. I've said it before, and deep down in my heart, I felt like, man, that's a tall hill to climb. I can tell you right now, they're going to have to buckle up. Bowden, if they're going to play this defense, because they're really
It's going to be a war.
They're a tough football team, and I promise you, they remember what happened last year. They lost 35-0, and I know that the coaching staff was trying to get Harvison acclimated. Late in the game, they brought their ones back in, and they went deep. They wanted to throw the football to Harvison, I guess, to give him another opportunity. Whatever. They were winning 35-0. They brought their ones back in. They go downtown on Bremen. That's stuck in their crawl. I promise you that they're thinking about that because they didn't like it.
I love it. I'm glad it got the red
Some
and
juices
blue
flowing.
back going.
Yeah,
baby. It
yeah,
sounds
man.
like some beef going on.
Yeah, man. That's what
you expect out of Bremen Bowden.
Yeah,
we had a little bit of that, or a lot of it between Bowden and Central before their game. You used to. That's part of the fans' love of this rivalry is getting to Yaya, just hoping that your team's going to back up your Yaya from all week, because when they don't Saturday morning, you're closed up, and whoever won's Yaya for a year. And the thing about this football game, you and I talked about it. It's a crazy game, Tim. This could be a 31-30 ball game or a 29-27 type ball game. Or it could be 7-6, or it could be 10-7, and this Mathis Klein kid kicks some kind of field goal to win the football game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bremen beat them or maybe won the game 10-7 with that kicker. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bowden didn't come out wanting to steamroll, and all those athletes and everybody's finally on the same page. And if Bowden gets on the same page, they got more athletes.
Oh yeah,
They got a lot more athletes.
They'll be tough to beat.
In my opinion.
I truly think that the deciding factor is special teams. Like it is.
That's right.
Those boys down the road here, they take a lot of time specializing in special teams. They find your little bitty weaknesses, your little quirks, and if you don't work on them like you've put on film, they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've been there. Like, I worked there. I know how that works. And for Bowden, they better be getting the show on the road with special teams, because that will expose them big time. And then the other thing is, you're talking about the defense of Bremen. If I'm them, I go 0. I mean, beat me. All you've shown all year is a fade route to pro throw. I'll take that 50-50 shot. Trevor Lawrence ain't throwing the ball. Yeah. I mean, I'll take that every single time, because I'll load the box and tell you to come get it, and we'll stop, quarterback counter, Beasley would lead and all this stuff. I'll put all my eggs in that basket until you can prove you can beat me on the perimeter.
Right.
That's what I'm doing if I'm coming into the game.
I would have thought the pro throw was going to be definitely a deciding factor in the early part of before this season started. I thought it's going to be a huge mismatch whenever these teams line up. Aiden Haney, that kid has shown that he can play. He can cover anybody. I don't know how. He's probably 5'7". He may be 5'8". I'll give him 5'8". He had L.J. Green the first week, which is an all-state wide receiver. You think he's 6'4". He didn't get nothing. There was one pass interference late in the game. He probably did get him. It was a deep ball. He probably did get him. But they went after him several times, and he got nothing. Haralson County tried to catch him deep at the end of the game. He was blanketed all over. He got inside. He pushed the kid outside. He just kind of forced him towards the sideline. Did exactly what he had to do. Yeah, it was just absolutely good coverage. I'm sure they'll come after him. He's not that big of a guy, but he's scrappy and he's tough, and he can. I think he can cover him. I think he can cover him as good as anybody can cover a kid that's that size, that's that athletic. And like you said, Rooster Russell's going to come after you. I don't care if you beat him deep. You can beat him deep, he'll come right after you again. He's going to keep doing it. Your quarterback's going to have to – he's going to be on the run all night long, because he's going to continuously come at you, and he don't care if he gets beat every now and then. If he does get beat, oh, well, go get him again.
Well, the 7 counties, 24 high schools that we talk about and pretty much cover right here in the West Georgia area, a lot of great rivalries. Carrollton Central, wish they'd kick back up. I'd really like to see those two playing again. How about Callaway and Heard County? It's another big one. Bremen, Haralson County. Douglas County, Lithia Springs. Those are old bad blood that's been going on for a long time. And then you look at, again, some of the other rivalries. Cedartown, Rockmart. That's as good as any rivalry in the state. But the second longest and one of the best rivalries, in my opinion, and it's not because I've been a part of it, my kids have been a part of it and, played in it, and is Bremen Bowden. This is the funnest rivalry in all of football in the state of Georgia, in my opinion.
It sets a tone.
You played in it.
Yeah.
You and I have called many games.
You've called my game.
Yeah, I've called your games.
That means you're old.
I am getting old. I'm getting old. But yeah, I've called his games in it. But yeah, I mean, talk about that, Kel. I mean, you played in this game. You played in this game for 4 years, a 4-year deal for you, and how much it means to both teams. Because everything that you guys were feeling on Bremen's side whenever you went in wanting to win that game is the same thing on the other side of the coin. Bowden felt the same way.
Yeah. I guess the freshman year we lost at home. Freak play. I think Raphael Mitchell, you'll probably remember calling that game, gets out, scores. We lose 17-14, something crazy. Sophomore year, didn't they win 20 in a row? Broke the streak, or they were going for 20?
No, they had won 20 games in a row. Bowden beat Bremen 20 games in a row in 19 years. I think the first or second year they played each other in the region playoffs, and Bowden beat them twice that year.
Yeah.
And then so it was 19 years, 20 consecutive games. But you were part of the team that broke the 20
streak.
Game
2006.
streak.
The streak. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy for me to remember.
Andrew
That's-
McClure was the quarterback
Yep.
at Bremen. I know that.
Yep.
You were a sophomore. Clayton,
I
all you
was.
guys were sophomores.
Yep. I honestly, because I was a Temple kid, and you had a huge influence on me coming to Bremen, but I didn't understand it really my freshman year, and then sophomore year you start playing a lot and you're thrown in the fire. And one of the things I will never forget was Coach Mauser. Jake Rollins, remember, was our quarterback.
Yes.
He could sling it.
Yes.
He was really good. They still had Raphael Mitchell. They still had a lot of talent on those teams.
Mm-hmm.
They're driving, we're up, and Mauser puts me in the game. Like, I'd played offense the entire game. He's like, go, we're in cover 3, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember thinking to myself, oh, God, I'm really getting thrown in the fire right now. And, end up getting that pick. And that photo stayed in Coach Tollison's office forever with, McClure jumping up in the air, and it had the scoreboard.
28-14.
And the funniest thing ever, we're all celebrating. There is one person that is not celebrating, and if he is watching, Coach Hannigan is still trying to get everything going. He's like, it ain't over yet, because he's been in so many Bremen Bowden games, He was the only one not smiling, not doing anything.
So what? It's 2 minutes left in the game, something like that.
Yeah, it was a minute and 30 seconds.
Up 2 scores,
Yeah,
and
he
Bremen
was
had the ball.
He was not sold yet. He was still
So it
trying
was
to get
over.
everybody, personnel on the field and all that stuff. But just that moment for me, it was honestly a reality check, because when the scoreboard goes off, Bremen storms the field. And then from then on out, it was like, it was in my blood. Like, we got to kill them every year.
Right.
I mean, and
they feel the same way.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that was kind
And
of
what-
where it was a reality check for me, and realizing how serious it was for everybody in the community.
It's good old-fashioned hate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is, and
It's Alabama-Auburn.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it's kind of like what you're saying. Yeah, Alabama-Auburn. You got a lot of people in the same household. Somebody might go to Alabama, somebody might go to Auburn or whatever, and you got the same thing at Bremen. Your
Yep.
cousin may be on the other side of it.
Well, look,
I know
Cat-
one year we had a stepbrother. A stepbrother was on the other side. One lived with his mama, and one lived with
Well,
his
you
daddy.
had 2 brothers.
Yeah, they had
the
to play.
Sewell. I mean, what's her name? Sprules.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One was a senior, played at Bremen. The sophomore, I think, was at Bowden.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
I
the 2
remember that,
brothers
yeah.
actually played
Josh
against each
and,
other. Spruill.
Yep, I remember that.
It's
now.
not just your neighbors. I mean, it's
Right.
You
It's
could-
your kinfolk.
It's your family, that you're playing with.
Well, it's people that you work with, that you've been, wherever you work. I mean, you work with them. You go to church with them. You do a lot of. You may do travel ball and baseball with them, but on Friday night in the high school, you playing against each. It's one of the greatest rivalries.
Yeah, there's a lot of jawing going on this week, man, and there's going to continue to be some coffee shop and barbershop jawing all week. But
I mean, we just jumped right into really the biggest game of the week, didn't
Yeah,
we?
yeah.
I mean, right off the bat, and next week. Let's run around the block. Let's pay some more bills, and we're going to come back with more as we preview this Friday night's football games right here on West Georgia TV.
Old Fashioned Hardware Store. That's the best way to describe Messer Hardware of Bowden, Georgia. Remember when a person greeted you at the door and provided quality information and service? Or when salespeople were knowledgeable about hardware, plumbing, electrical, paint, and agricultural products? Take it further back. How about when lawn and garden seeds were scooped from bulk containers? At Messer Hardware, the best parts of the past are alive, well, and at the center of our business philosophy. We pride ourselves on offering the old-fashioned hardware store experience you grew up with. That's Messer Hardware of Bowden, Georgia.
If you're looking for some of the best lemonade in West Georgia, Steve and his crew at Incredible Pope Lemonade are serving up sunshine by the cup. With an extensive menu that includes strawberry, cherry lemonade, and watermelon, the menu also boasts a peach mango lemonade with natural peach puree stirred in the mix. If you are looking for your own cup of sunshine, give them a call or follow their Facebook page at Incredible Pope Lemonade. Located on 30 Dot Road in Bowden, Aryan Farm and Ranch Supply opened their doors in April of this year. With backyard gardening essentials as their main focus, there is so much more at Aryan Farm and Ranch Supply. They also serve as a full-scale farm supplier, and there's even some fencing options you can choose from. So stop by Aryan Farm and Ranch Supply today for some free coffee and all of your farming needs.
Whitley's Forestry Mulching and Skid Steer Service is your go-to for all your mulching, brush cutting, trenching, grading, excavator services, and more. Open in 2018, Ryan and his team have made a commitment for customer service and satisfaction. For all your mulching and skid steer needs, give Ryan and his team a call at 678-378-0683. That's 678-378-0683. Whitley's Forestry Mulching and Skid Steer Services in Bowden. Welcome back in. It's the weekly football preview show. Again, I'm your host, Tom Araquazo, alongside Coach Kel Singleton, and behind the camera and all the magic that happens for us here is my brother Tim. Guys, we did our ranking. It's our first ranking of the year. We got several of us that got together and looked at it, and again, it's just rankings, but it's for fun. We covered 24 high schools in the 7 counties: Paulding County, Polk County, Haralson County, Douglas County, Carroll County, Heard County, and Troup counties. And we have a ranking of all those teams, and some of them, it may surprise some folks. Like we talked about a Hiram and stuff, but 1-1 on the season's Carrollton. I think it's the number 1 team in this, in our area by far.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think that they're a step above everybody else in our area.
Yeah.
Douglas County's 2-0. Tremendous football team. They got a lot of athletes. They got 3 or 4 cats over there that can really, really do it. North Paulding after that, 2-0. They're in 7-A. Our number 4 ranked team, we got Central 2-0. After that, Troup County, and then Callaway. You just mentioned that before we came back. Those two will play this week and settle that for us. And 7th, Hiram, they're 2-0. 8th, Cedartown. 9th, Rockmart. 10th, LaGrange. 11th, Bremen. 12th, Temple, and that would be our top 12 out of our 24 teams. So half of them, and we'll kind of see where they hang around this year. But speaking of Carrollton, guys, another really good football game, and in a lot of people's minds, it's 2 of the best teams in the state. One in 6A and Carrollton, of course, in 7A. Rome and Carrollton, it's always a good one, and there's a lot of big plays that usually happen in that, and it usually comes down to a big play at the end to win.
Yeah. I mean, Rome. I mean, they have tradition just like Carrollton. So I mean, it's not going to be I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't think Carrollton's going to put up 40-something at half or anything crazy like that. You're going to get more of your, special teams might come in and play that factor like we've been talking about. 2 really good teams, 2 really, really good established programs. Special teams may be huge in this game for the deciding victor. So definitely be keeping an eye on that score as we're at the Bremen-Bowden game, seeing what's Carrollton Rome score.
Oh, yeah.
That's another big one that's going to be fun to watch.
It's at Rome, too, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got Edward Chastain, Rockmart. Linebacker is a beast. Then we got David and Tracy Pollard. If Bowden can come together, finish drives, and score, the score will be 28-10 Bowden.
If not, another low-scoring game.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
So, he could be right. Like we said, Bowden's got a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
A lot of athletes.
Going on the Carrollton game, you're talking about Carrollton.
Yes.
Carrollton, Rome's really good football team.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I know Carrollton's a great football team, but Rome has won. They beat Cass 34-0. They beat Lithonia 56-8. They got a good defense, and Cass just barely lost to Rockmart last week. It was 23-24, I think, last week. They blanked them 34-0. Rome did.
Yeah.
So their defense is good. Their defense is good. Their offense is good.
Well,
This is going to be a better football game than a lot of people think.
Oh,
I know they think Carrollton is a step above them this year. I don't know about it, man. It's going to be a good football game.
They could be right in there together.
Because Cass, they run a lot of 10 personnel and stuff, and they got a kid named Sokovie White that's going to the University of Georgia. That is
a bad
man
dude.
at receiver.
He's a
and
dude.
he didn't do nothing.
Yeah, he
against
got
Rome,
shut down.
So,
yeah.
Well, that's what surprised me about Rome. Them scoring the points don't.
Yep.
A shutout, and then what did you say they gave up 8?
Gave up 8. And that was late in the game.
Yeah,
That
Late
was-
in the game
56 to
garbage.
8.
Yeah, Clint. If basically their starters have got 2 shutouts pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Against 2 pretty good football teams. Or, they're not great football teams, but they're really good football teams, especially that, Cass is one of those teams.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to come at you, and they're going to give you some, they got some dudes, and they're going to play hard, and to hammer them like that is a pretty big deal. But what got me was in the scrimmage, and I know that it was just a scrimmage, but Rome, they handled Rockmart really, really well.
Yeah.
They beat them bad.
Yeah.
And then that's how I was like, they got a little bit of a defense. They're still scoring points like they normally do. I always said if Rome ever played some defense, they could beat anybody if they had a good defense because they could score on anybody.
Yeah, like I said, Cass, I mean, they just narrowly escaped. Not escaped. They actually lost by 1 point to Rockmart. So they were
Right.
I mean, they were right there neck and neck with Rockmart, and they got ran over by Rome. So
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one.
yeah, it's going to be a fun football game to watch. It's definitely the one I'm going to have on my little scoring chart.
Yep.
I'll watch it throughout the whole game for the Bowden Bremen game.
How about Troop Callaway? That's another good one. Troop
Yep.
Callaway's, 2 of the teams we just talked about in our rankings here, and 2 really good football teams. Troop, again, 2-0. It's another one of those deals. It's kind of looks like a revolving door. They just keep reloading. They got athletes, and these graduate, and here comes more. And so Troop's just one of those programs. They're going to be solid. They're going to make a deep run in the playoffs pretty much every year. And then you got Callaway, and we've seen what they just did to Cedartown. Now, it's either one or 2 things or a combination of 2. Either Callaway's they got another really good football team. They got good linemen, they got receivers, they got the defense, they got speed, they got all the stuff that Coach Wiggins and them usually have. Or Cedartown might not be quite as good as they were last year. I'm leaning towards Cedartown's probably not quite as good as they were last year, but I still think that Callaway's a good football team. This is another good rivalry, Callaway and Troop.
If you've never been to that game, it is a fun game.
And that big old stadium will be full.
It'll be packed out. So it's always a good one. We talk Bremen Bowden, but this has more probably family ties than Bremen Bowden does.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they're really in each other's backyard.
Yeah, they're in each other's neighborhood. That's right.
It's a fun one to watch for sure. It'll be an exciting game.
And mainly those 2 right there are just sharing athletes.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you talk about transfers. I don't know what their deal is, but I guarantee you they got some back and
Some
forth.
kids flop back and forth.
Yeah, they've had that going on. But
Yeah.
Well, you got LaGrange down there too now. LaGrange is a good football team
Oh, yeah.
with a storied program. They won state titles after state titles as well, down there. And I always said if you took those 3 schools and combined them and made one good 7A school,
wow.
you'd have a good football team in 7A with those 3 together. But, yeah, again, when those 3 play, that stadium down there at Callaway Stadium, that big old stadium's always packed. It's always exciting. It's always good football, and it's going to be no different Friday night between Troop and Callaway. I'm interested to see how that game goes.
Yep.
I really am. Let's see who we got next. Let's
Hurd.
talk. Heard County, they're off.
No, they got South Atlanta.
Oh, well,
They were
that's
off
right.
last
They
week.
were
Yep.
off last week. That's right. They got
Yep,
South
they're
Atlanta.
They're looking to bounce back this week after
right.
week 1. So I think the gang, they had 2 weeks to prepare for this one. Hopefully they really have no choice because
They need to get off the snide.
Well, with the team we were just talking about, you play South Atlanta, then you got to go play Callaway. So you better not even worry about week 1 anymore. It's over with, done with. Let's get
Then
to
there's
week
a
2.
Rabun County and
Yeah.
Heard County's
So you don't-
future, I think, as well. Is that
Yeah.
what you got pulled up
Yep.
there,
Yeah, you
Tim?
got Rabun County, Clarkson, McIntosh, Crawford County, Mount Zion, Temple, Lamar County. I mean,
And even
That's,
South Atlanta.
That's
I
a
mean,
tough
they
schedule.
that's a tough schedule for them. Yeah.
South Atlanta a few years ago. I mean, they have
They went to the
dudes
Elite
every
Eight.
year.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Bremen beat them on the road to go to the Elite Eight a few years ago. It was a good football team.
You have to be ready, prepared. The next 3 is going to be tough for her, but they'll be fine. I mean,
Yeah.
they normally are.
Herd's
So,
got to get their offense going.
Yep.
That's what they got to do.
Mount Zion won last week. We talked about that in the big Sippy
Greenville.
Cup game.
Yeah, Mississippi Cup.
They got Jordan coming in. Now, Jordan's one of those crazy little teams as well, guys. Mount Zion could win this game 56-0, or it could be a 24-23 kind of football game because Jordan is going to bring in athletes.
That's right.
It just all depends on how disciplined they are to play the football game.
Yep, definitely. I mean, Jordan always has guys, they get off the bus, you're like, holy cow. you
Right.
know. But just the discipline side of it's never there. Just scheme-wise, the whole – y'all have seen them in person. So, for Mount Zion, the thing to do, come out fast, start fast. You can't have no lull like last week with Greenville because just from watching film, Greenville kind of looks similar to what Jordan looks like, So, get out, get fast, get your twos in, maybe at the end of the third, and go to the house.
Yeah.
Jordan's one of those teams whenever they get off the bus or you watch them, a lot of these teams around this area, the Bowdens, the Bremans, the Mount Zions, all of these teams are smaller teams, and they look at them and say, you know what, the coaches look at them and say, good God, I'd like to have a couple of those kids.
Yeah, let me borrow one of
Yeah,
them.
let me
Yeah,
have a
can I
couple,
have one or two?
couple of
That's right.
those athletes because, like you said, though, that they're just they're not disciplined.
Yep.
They're scheme-wise. They just coaching's not there. But,
Yeah.
But I think Mount Zion handles them. I think they handle them pretty good this week.
It's our game of the week with WGTV. Josh and I will be there at Mount Zion, and we'll have a call of that one. Excited to see what Coach Gordon and gang is going to do this Friday night. Villa Rica, the road just doesn't get any easier. I mean, Villa Rica's got a tough schedule really from top to bottom, if you will.
Northgate's undefeated.
Yeah, Northgate's 2-0, and Villa Rica's going down there. It's going to be if their defense plays like it did last week, and their offense can finish some of those drives. I mean, because Villa Rica drove the ball, they just didn't finish them when they got near the red zone or inside the 30. They couldn't finish. They had some penalties and some things happened, and you expect that. It was the first game of the year, so you expect some of those things to happen. But they got a great quarterback in Zabel. The kid's big. He's strong. He can throw the football. He can run with the football. And their defense will get after you. They'll hit you. They will hit you. I think that they can go down there and win a football game on Friday night, and it would be a huge win on the road for Villa Rica. But they got to get that offense has got to figure out a way to help that defense and get in the end zone because that's what happened for 3 quarters, almost 2.5 quarters, almost 3 full quarters. Villa Rica was beating a very good offensive team and shutting them out. It was 6-0, and then they scored. They missed their extra point in a 6-6 ball game, and then that defense was just in the second half was just on the field too much. And a lot of people don't take into consideration some of that. You take a game like Central Bowden, 14-6 at halftime, right? Second half, those kids from Bowden start wearing down. Why Central's got more kids to rotate in. And you can use the excuse all you want, but it happens, and they wear down that defense. If the defense is on the field too much and the offense can't help them, then the next thing you know, boom, you take somebody like a Walton a long run or a Bolton a long run or the quarterback, the kid with the long run. You know what I'm saying?
Then everybody's looking at our defense ain't good.
Defense is terrible. There comes your peanut gallery again.
Yeah.
The defense
That
is
ain't what
terrible.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, it ain't, when you put a defense on the field all night long, it's tough to stop offenses because offenses, they know the play and they're coming at you.
Yeah.
It's hard. Where we at? Villa Rica got off of that, went straight to something else. So that was me and my
Yeah,
ramble.
they'll be fine. I mean, they go on the road. That to me, they'll probably have more athletes than Northgate. Typically, that happens when you go against somebody like Northgate. But Northgate's going to be disciplined. They're going to play
Well
hard.
coached.
They're going to be well coached. I mean, we just go through that list. We've been talking about this whole time. They're going to be good on special teams, the whole 9 yards. I mean, so. And it's your first road trip as a head coach. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that.
And it's only game 2 for
Yeah.
them, game 3 for Northgate.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference.
That's huge. And, Northgate beating Stars Mill and Whitewater, which are not far from them, kind of rivals in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, and had their way with them. So, I mean, they're
Stars
kind of
Mills
feeling
is
confident.
pretty good.
But that could be in Villa Rica's favor, too. Northgate, are you up here still, or are you
Right.
back down here? So
I think it's a must win. I know it's early in the year, but it's kind of a must win for them. They need to win this football game because they got Carrollton away. They're at Carrollton next
And
week.
they don't want to start 0-3.
Then you don't want to start 0-3 going into your region. Which these first 3 games, I know a lot of people talk about they don't mean anything. I mean, they mean something. You know
Oh,
what
yeah,
I mean?
absolutely.
Every game means something to an athlete.
Right.
And you don't want to start 0-3. You got Tri-Cities, Banneker, and then
Yep.
Lithia Springs. Then you go into Mays.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's when the real heat of that region starts. I think they'll handle Tri-Cities, and I think they'll play a good football game against Banneker. But when you get into Lithia Springs and Mays, yeah, it's
Well,
gonna
and
be
Lithia's
tough.
has a ton of athletes over the last couple of years. I mean, they had some dudes last year. I think they got 3 guys that went, big time football that's left there, especially that quarterback. What was his name? Hart, I believe it, something like that. That cat was good. I'm not sure that Lithia is quite as good as they were last year. I really think I think Villarica can win all 3 of those region games that you're talking about. But again, it all goes back to you want to come out healthy, and you want to have gotten better from week 1, and then week 3 you want to be better than week 2, and then week 4 you want to be better than week 3, and then you get into that region schedule, and you want to start rolling off some wins. See if you can't get in that top 4 and get back in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's see who we got next.
Temple Chattooga,
Yep, that's going to be.
home game for Temple.
I think it's another. I think it's another win.
It's similar.
I think Temple's
to
going
me,
to go 3-0 after
just
this.
seeing, watching film on Chattooga and stuff like that, it'll kind of be similar to Pike County. They might be a little better, scheme wise than Pike was, but it should be the similar outcome there for them. So look for them having a big night Friday at home back in Rogers.
Well, Tim, let's run through a few more scores. Who does Douglas County play this week? I'm interested in this Douglas County football team.
Central is off, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I thought we'd mentioned that, did I not? No, I said Herb was off,
Yeah.
but that was last week. Yes, Central is off this week. But we about covered everyone else.
That's
haven't
it.
we?
I want to see I want to see who Douglas County is.
Yeah.
Playing.
Yeah, we got a few minutes. here
I'm with
before
you
we go.
guys. I think Temple's going to win this week.
I mean,
think
it
they'll
should be
fine.
same kids we call out every week. They should have big nights, and Tigers
Against-
should roll on per.
Almost like another Pike County, right?
Yeah,
What do you think?
very similar.
Douglas County's got McEachern.
Ooh.
They're away at McEachern.
Ooh.
All right, so they beat Stockbridge. What was that one? 28?
28.
Yeah.
And Stockbridge got a good football team. Then they beat Mays.
Yeah, 48.
48-42. Now, that's another big football game. Mays has got some kids. I mean, they got
Oh,
some
yeah.
dudes, too, like you was talking about.
Yeah.
And Douglas County put 48 on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
McEachern's going to be a big test for them. Douglas County beats McEachern next week. They score 35-40 on them and beat them.
The real test.
Might be for real.
I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but the real test is 9-22. That one single
Hughes.
name, Langston Hughes.
Oh,
yeah.
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 There's your
Yeah,
one.
that,
you can really
on the
say.
schedule don't even have the Langston. It
Yeah.
just says Hughes.
It says Hughes, yeah.
I'm going
Yeah.
to tell you what, though. Douglas County's got the athletes to play some football with a team like Hughes. I mean, I don't think they beat them. They could, but
Yeah.
I don't think they beat them.
Yeah.
But I think they got some cats that can play around with them,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
hang out with them.
They-
I mean,
they do.
Carrollton hungry. Carrollton could have beat them.
Carrollton had them. I think they had them beat.
What the
You know,
the
Carrollton was-
kid dove and he was just short of the goal line. Well, that would have been the game-winning touchdown right
Well,
there.
they had them beat
It's a
early.
game of inches too.
They had them beat early in the game. They got up 14-0. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they had them. They let that one slip away from them. Talking about Douglas County, I was looking. Alexander's their first region opponent. That used to be at the end of the year. You
Right.
know what I mean? You see that a lot more with teams. Bowden, Bremen, all this stuff
Yeah.
early in the year. I like that stuff at
Yeah.
the end of the year. I like it, especially when you're in the same region.
Some anticipation on
Yeah.
still something to play for.
Yeah.
Because see, Bowden Bremen kind of have to now just because
Yeah.
of
Out of
not being in
region,
the
out
same
of
region.
classification.
But Douglas County should definitely move Alexander to the last game. That'd
Yeah,
be a
yeah,
good one.
that'd be a good one. Yeah.
But I mean, look at that Douglas County schedule. I mean, they got East Paulding on it. They've got Langston Hughes. Alexander, big rival. Stockbridge, we just talked about. They got McEachern. They got Mays. They got Noonan. South Paulding's probably going to be a good football game for them as well. That's a tough road to hoe right there.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of good football this week. It's going to be a really, really fun week.
And college football's back.
Oh, yeah.
Officially
football
back.
Is here.
I know it was
everyone.
back last week, but it's back this week.
I missed that one so bad last week. You know, they were I think they were a 19-point favorite was Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Well, they won by like 50 points against Hawaii last year.
Not this year.
Yeah, not this year. That little quarterback for Hawaii, he
Yeah.
looked really, really good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it was Vanderbilt they were playing. He looked good, but yeah, I lost money on that one.
Well, I think I think we about covered everybody, right?
That's it.
We got some sponsors in this thing. Yeah, Tim can pull them up. You've been
Yeah,
rotating them along
they've
and making
been
sure
there.
that all of our sponsors get plenty of love.
Yep.
Love them. Appreciate it. Hey, don't forget, our Game of the Week on WGTV. It streams live on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. This week we have Mount Zion and Jordan. Then we'll be back at our studio in Bowden. We got several coaches that are already telling us that they're coming in, going to start joining us on Friday night. So we're going to have tons of people for Kel's your host of our Inception Energy Solutions post-game show on Friday night. Please check it out. Comment, talk. Come see us. If you're in
Speaking of
Bowden,
that-
come see us.
Speaking of that, I think it's I think it's cool y'all are doing that. I know a lot of people hadn't caught on yet, but when they do, I like that. I think it definitely gives you something to do after the game. You're still hyped up. I'm
Right.
still up to about 2:00 in the morning after football. I don't even play anymore, man. I'm
Yeah.
old, but I'm still up. You know, riding on that high or loss, whatever it's going to be.
Well,
throughout the week.
Yeah, a lot of people are sitting around a little campfire, got a little fire going, a little something to sip on, hanging out, and they want more football. We've waited on it so long, especially here at the early part of the season. We're all wanting some football. I mean, we're getting ours, but I need like a double dose. You know what I mean? I need like a double dose.
Get
of
all you
football.
can. It's flying by. So
Get
week
all,
3.
it's
I know
only
this
week
is-
3.
I know
How
it's not
crazy.
high school tomorrow night. You got Florida and you got Utah.
Oh,
who
yeah.
you got
Who-
on?
who is-
Florida? It's Florida and Utah.
I thought you said UTEP. I was
No,
going to say, I didn't know they was playing
I
there.
got Florida. Utah's quarterback I don't think's playing.
Really?
I think they just made that decision today. I was listening to Paul Feinbaum show. So.
Wow.
I'm going to pull a Dave Pollard. If Florida were playing the Russians, I may be pulling for the Russians. Can't stand Florida. But, guys, it's time for us to get on up and get on out of here. It is time for us to saddle up and ride. Appreciate you joining us. Continue to share it. Continue to comment. Continue to come on and check it out. For Kel Singleton, my brother Tim, I'm Tom Araquazo. God bless you, gang. Good night.